Accurate, dependable, and late breaking. This is local and state news on WLEN, Lenawee's local news station.
Hello, Lenawee County. My name is Brian Vish, and this week in Lenawee, I'm joined by Dr. Sonja Howell, a Lenawee County author, educator, and founder of Tranquil Studio. Her new book is called Feel It. Wake up from the lull, reclaim your power, and come back to life. It's built from lived experience, local casework, and trauma-informed research, and it introduces what she calls the Feel It framework, a method for waking up from emotional numbness and reconnecting with yourself and others. Dr. Howell, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Brian. Nice to be here.
So, first, what led you to write Feel It? Was there a moment when you felt like the community absolutely needed this book?
Well, when I did my doctoral research here in Lenawee County, I realized as I was working with the interviewees that a lot of it was self-help that they needed. And they were looking for resources within the community for that self-help. So I worked with the organizations, I've made presentations there, but I haven't created anything that would bring it home back to the person who said they needed the help. So this is for the person.
Okay, so it's more of as you're gathering that information, you see that these folks need more guidance. And so this was kind of a way to lay that framework out.
Yes. I'll definitely explain a little bit more later.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, in the book, I did see that you wrote, it was not written from the mountain of recovery, but from the middle. Why did you choose to publish it while it was still, inside the work rather than waiting until it was quote unquote finished?
So I guess that was a self-reflection where I know I'm not finished. Well, I'm still here, so I'm not finished, and I don't believe that healing is ever finished. I believe that we're going to continue that our whole life. So this is something that will continue, that can help people now and then help them in continuation with the rest of their lives. So just changing the mindset or having them change their own mindset of how healing can work.
Yeah, and kind of, I like that because it bridges that idea that, healing is a process.
Yes.
And it can take time. Some folks can reach what seems to be an end point, but not everybody does. And sometimes it's a lifelong journey. So I do like that that's kind of where you seem to be going with that.
And I'm not complete with my own journey. I don't want to stand at the mountaintop and say, oh, look what I've done. Yeah. Because I'm right there with everyone.
And I don't think I could say that even for stuff I've had to go through that I'm fully healed. But, learning to go through that and live with it is, I think, the better way to go about.
Yeah.
So, in there, you also coined the term, as we mentioned in the title, the lull. In the book to describe that quiet state, it says, between functioning and actually feeling. Philosophers like Albert Camus describe the absurd in a similar way. So I'm curious, did you have something in mind like that, where it's like this abstract thing and you're trying to make it more of a concrete reality? Was that the idea behind the lull?
I could say yes in short, but I'm trying to take that. It does seem to be an abstract idea of this lull, but I wanted to make it more in common language. Yeah. And we could read that and say, what does that actually mean? So for the lull, it's kind of our enemy. It's, a trigger happens and then we're stuck and we're like, oh my gosh, but I still have to pay the bills. I still have to go to work. I still have to, pay my property taxes or else they'll take my house. I still have children to care for. I still have, all of these things I have to do. And a lot of us put things aside and, that it stays there in that lull somewhere in the back of your mind, weighing you down. And you have to recognize it and, yes, so that's the lull. It's that space where you're not healed and it's just hanging and it's just weighting you down and you're heavy but you still have to breathe and you still have to do your everyday stuff. Yeah. So
the monkey on your back.
Yes,
so to speak.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So then you write that numbness, is not a failure, and I agree with that statement. That's not a failure of anybody, but it's design. Can you explain what the book teaches about freeze response and why people shouldn't shame themselves for not reacting correctly in the situation.
So that's kind of an A-B response. One of them, the numbness is not, it is actually your body does tell you, okay, right now I can't deal with this. I have to do something else. It's not healthy to try to multitask emotion plus, tasks. You can't naturally do it really well. So I know I can't. I don't know. I don't know anyone who can, but I can't. But that is actually, as you said, the freeze response. It's kind of like, all right, now what do I do with this? Okay, my child's crying and, something else is going on here that's traumatic. My child is first. I take care of my child. And then you come back later. And then there's, that leads right into where do you go next? What do you do? How do you get back to that when right after that you have to do the dishes? Right after that, your car broke down. You have to take care of that. But, I work mostly with high conflict families.
Okay.
So all of them have, larger than I need to do the dishes. They have custody cases. They have CPS cases. They have a lot of things that are going on with a lot of little bits every day. And they've got these huge to-do lists. They don't feel like they have the time to complete that. But then they've got this looming, court case against them or something. So it's how to get through those at the same time, Schedule yourself. It's not about priorities. It's about emotional, self-help.
It's about making sure people have the tools then to make sure they can get through things.
Yes, and the study kind of doesn't, that we'll get into that, the surprise of the surprise of what you think they actually need is so different than what they said in the study. But
well, let's elaborate now. What is that surprise? So what is that surprise for you? What would be
that surprise? It did come when I got the data from my research here at Lenawee, and it was I actually cried about it because I got all the data. I give the interviews and I asked them, what helped you? I worked with people that were a little further along in the process of healing, what helps them. And I thought they were going to say, oh, having, the groups where we could discuss things or having discussions or having, these type of activities or whatever. So I'm an instructional designer.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for like hard facts of this worked better than this and da-da-da-da-da.
Hard data points, yeah.
Yeah, that program worked versus this program or something like that. And it was not that at all.
Oh.
It was the connection that they made with people. It was people being caring. It was like those type things and, communicating with others the same, in the same situations. And I was like, wait a minute. I can't design that. How? Wait, what? So I like cried. I actually called my chair and I'm like, my research is a total failure. They didn't tell me anything that I can do because I'm looking like logically, like what can I do as an instructor, like to make sure these things are done in the courses and in the workbooks and whatever. And no, that's not what they said at all. They want to feel like they belong here in Lenawee County, and they want to feel like they can see the people that are on their caseloads, not their caseloads, but that they are part of their caseloads, and they want to be able to see them in the community and be able to say, hi, how are you, instead of, hey, I'm going to avoid you. They want to feel like they belong and that they're included in the life here.
Yeah.
So
as someone who tends to approach things in a little bit more of a logical, rational sense myself, I would imagine there was, aside from those, there's probably some other assumptions that you would have had to rethink or change or abandon based on the data that you did get.
Yes, it definitely was, because in my data, I did have to say, put all of my biases out there. Yeah. I'm a divorcee myself. I live in Lenawee County. I have gone through, the course myself. And, my opinions of how it worked for me are totally different than how it worked for other people. Sure. And for me, there wasn't parenting instruction for me to go through. So that's why I built the program to help me, because there wasn't anything specific. There might have been parenting instruction, but it wasn't what I was looking for. Yeah. So I created this myself to help myself, as well as, learn to help others. And then when I asked others what worked or what didn't work, and all of the data came back, and I was like, wow, I didn't even think of that. And then I started going back and looking at the people I did connect with and my peers and my mentors, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so true. That is what helps me the most.
Absolutely.
So,
I do like that too, because I'm 37, so growing up, there wasn't a lot of parenting instructions from what I could see. So, and that was kind of like the joke. Oh, none of us have an instruction manual. None of us know what we're doing.
It's the Bible for children.
Yeah,
Raising
but then
children.
maybe somebody needed to come up with an instruction manual. So, because it seems like we do that with so many other things. And this seems like it would be such a great, a great thing for anybody to have, because it doesn't have to be customized. It can be customizable. I mean, it's not specific to them. And so for listeners who haven't yet bought that book, what is the Feel It framework in 1 or 2 sentences based on what you have found so far with all the interviews you've been able to conduct?
That's the meat of it, right? Yeah. So if I were to just give one person a piece of paper and say, here, read this really quick, I would just say, I mean, we all know breathing is, a huge part of self-healing. But what I found is when people recognize whatever the trigger is, and then they stop, even if it's a child's crying, and you can still stop and pause and breathe and recognize whatever that feeling is that they're feeling at the moment. So name it, even if they don't feel anything because it's just too overwhelming and they're frozen, they can still just recognize, I'm frozen, or I'm feeling hatred, or I'm feeling disappointed, or whatever that is. But going through those 3 actually puts it into the brain as something, and then you can assess it, and then you can, work with it. But if you're just like, I can't deal with that right now, and you just push it aside, then you might forget about it until the next time something happens, and then it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
So that's where that 3, 2, 1... recognize the trigger.
The trigger, and then recognize the trigger. I've got a little symbol, it's a little dot here. Yeah. This is for recognizing the trigger. That's the dot, and then the wave is the breathing. And it's not always the same for everyone. I've heard take 3 deep breaths in and 2 long ones out, and like all of that. And I've read that so many times. I still can't remember what it is. So for me, it's just breathe. Just remember to breathe. Recognize it, breathe, name it, and then, come back to it when you do have the time and you're able to, pamper your child or whatever it is that you need to do. But taking those steps to recognize actually, links it in your brain so you know what's going on.
So you talk a lot about, emotional safety. What role do writers and artists play in building that? Not just therapists or teachers?
I believe many, many artists use art and writing as their own self-help, expressive therapy. And as I've studied expressive therapy, and I'm a certified expressive artist, not therapist, but I definitely have brought that all into all of my programs for them to start practicing with the arts. And I believe that if someone were to see this, they would say, you know what, I could write my own something or other like this that could help me as I'm writing and help others who might be able to read it. So I'm not saying that I'm the only person, they can write this type of story or this type of workbook, but others might feel that it works for them.
Yeah. Well, that is actually cool because I do that as well. I write. I'm a writer myself. And that is actually why I did that. I've even written a fiction now. I kind of self-published. I'm not going to plug that right now, but
it's okay. I'm plugging mine.
I'm not plugging mine right now, but it was that. That was the entire basis behind it. It was, I wanted to get what was in my head out. And there is something about that, about just being able to put it on a page, whether it's a word or a drawing or painting of some sort, that just helps you to kind of, it's something about seeing it and being able to process it differently in a different angle. So I do agree with that, and I'm glad to know that that's actually a real thing. So yes, that's awesome. So, if the country actually embraced, the ideas of your book, what would change here in 5 years? What do you think would be the biggest difference that we would see?
I believe we would see more parents understanding self-help. And I believe organizations would understand how to help others understand themselves.
Mhm.
Schools would, I'm sure I've seen it. I've worked in, K-12. I've worked in higher ed. They'll, understand that people need to breathe and pause and all of that. That's common. But for it to be spoken out loud,
Mhm.
and for people to acknowledge, hey, you know what? It's okay. We can take a second. Please pause, breathe. We'll come back to that 20 seconds. You good? You good? All right, let's do this. So it's just more of a common knowledge now. And then, even workplaces
Mhm.
understand this. And then it turns into more of a person-based thing instead of a transactional type thing all of the time. And people feel belonging, retention, like all of that all that research is already done.
Yeah.
So if people would take these actions of, hey, Brian, how are you today? And not just be like, how are you, and walk past.
Mhm.
But one of my things that I talk about in here is, oh, hi, and actually saying, oh, hi, and meaning, oh, hi, instead of being like, hi, Brian, it's Monday, nice to see you. How are you?
Yeah.
Oh, good, I'm good. All right, cool. But, it's being present.
Yeah.
Instead of how many interviews did you do this week? How much airtime do you have? Which, of course, those have to be done.
Yes.
But not so much performance-based, but personal-based.
I like that because it directs folks to be more interpersonal rather than trying to do a transactional type of thing, which, coming from a customer service background, you see that a lot, especially when you're seeing folks walk through the stores as a worker. It's always just, yep, bye. I'll walk right past you. I'm going to get that coat over there. And that's, yeah. And so you learn like, oh, that's just how customers are. But, on a broader scale, I do agree. That's a really cool concept of just forcing people to go, hi, let's chat for a second. I do think do you think that's the main thing you would want those organizations you mentioned, like the schools, businesses, to understand?
I think a lot of them understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's so many things in the to-do list every day. I know this. But when I see people walking in the hallways, I don't say, hi, how are you? And if someone says, oh, hi, how are you? To me, then everyone knows that I'm the, oh, hi, lady. And they give a little chuckle. And I'm like, oh, hi. And they're like, oh,
yeah,
Sonja. Oh, hi. They just, I'm sure it's not that fun to everyone. But to me, I say, I make sure to bring that they're very important to me. And everyone is very important to me. So.
Yeah, and I think it's more just getting used to it. Mm-hmm. I think because we're so used to just not doing that. That's not a thing we do in our culture.
No.
And I think that's kind of just where that stems from personally for me. I think it's just we're not all used to being like, hi, Dr. Howell, how are you today? This is great. Like we're used to just doing that, walk past and keep moving. So for people listening who feel numb or disconnected, what is the single first step that you recommend they take as soon as they finish, with this interview, finish watching this interview? What would be the first step?
I had to swallow first, but the first thing that people need to do is just recognize their feeling. Like if they had to skip all of the steps and just do one of them, it would be recognize the feeling. Not even recognize the trigger, but recognize what they're feeling on a regular basis. Get into that mindset and reminding themselves that they are their special person, and just recognizing what their feelings are and when they're feeling it. And, just tuck that away for later if they have to. But that would be the top thing would be recognizing their feelings.
Okay.
And it's okay to.
Yes, I think that's a big one. Making sure that people know that it's okay to, not only feel, but recognize that you have those feelings and expressing and saying that you're feeling those feelings, because we're verbal creatures. We communicate verbally. So, yes. Now, I did also see that you're working to bring Writers on the River to Lenawee. What do you want to do for that event? What do you hope that event will do for the community here?
I really enjoy the events that we have in the community.
Yeah.
And once again, as I didn't have very many parenting instruction options, I would love to connect with other artists that communicate the same way that I do, and provide an opportunity for people that write and read. I mean, there's many of us, but just to have something that we can call a community. I mean, I know that there's a couple different coffee shops that have, reading nights, and, the library has things, but for us artists, us writers, to have something that we can call our own.
Okay, that would be kind of cool too, because you could expand that into a lot of different things, networking events, but also just in general readings of our work, where we can just kind of like an open mic, but for authors.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go. I as a former stand-up comedian, I'm cool with that. I like the open mic format. This is good.
I like it too. I mean, they might complain you're flipping your pages too loud or something.
Well, yeah, it's part of the act. It's part of the act. You got to have the pages. You got to hear them.
Of course, but I absolutely love having the page that you can flip through. And
yes.
There's a lot of online reading software, and that's great. I use Audible or whatever too, but just to have something that tons of people just sitting at tables, walking around, talking to each other about what I'm doing on my chapter and where I'm stuck, and there's online boards that we can talk through, and groups on social media and stuff, but I really want that interaction. I like that connection.
I think that's
having
what
that here in our community would be great.
That would be an excellent idea. I do like that. So something I like to do for all the interviews I do is I like to take the last few seconds to let the person I'm speaking with give one final thought on something that they would like to, express about what we're talking about. So for today, I already asked kind of like what would be the first step that someone who, hasn't bought that book yet should take. Let's say someone has bought it, maybe they're trying to work through the steps and they are dealing with a very traumatic issue. It could be anything. What would you want them to know about this community right now and their situation?
I would say that there are a ton of services here in our community. I could list all of the ones, but then I'd give away my secrets of who I used, and then I might show favoritism. So I'll just say there are tons of people that helped me write this book and make sure that it's valid. There are tons of people that have made me able to speak today and not be so shy and introverted. There's tons of people that have helped me get through my own family, challenges and all of that, and schooling and schedules and all of that. And if you feel alone and you feel that you don't know who to connect to, please reach out to one of them, because all of us are the same community. And if one system doesn't work for you, talk to another one. And I'm not saying jump, ship every 2 weeks, but make sure you reach out. Our community is wonderful here in Lenawee. And I mean, even, the extended cities within Lenawee, there's so many services available. And a lot of us meet monthly just to talk and, see what each other is doing. And everybody likes to do soft handoffs if that's possible. So if you're feeling really stuck, please reach out to the services that are here, and we will make sure that people are connected to the right place. And if therapy is not good for you, then there's instruction. If there's not instruction, there's art. If there's not art, there's, hopefully Writers on the River soon. But, there's tons. I've been here since maybe 92 or so, and I've received a lot of help. So that's the one thing that I would leave us with.
Awesome. Well, I would like to thank you for joining me today here for This Week in Lenawee. May I really quick?
Yes.
Absolutely. Cool.
Sure.
So the book is Feel It. The author is Dr. Sonja Howell. Pick up a copy today and see how this can help you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Count on WLEN, Lenawee's local news station, to keep you informed with accurate and dependable information 24 hours a day.